Alright, you in your aircraft? What? Alright, I'll try and look at that while I'm... Oh, it's delayed. You're still looking at the side wing. It's got about a minute delay to it. Time test. Just test. Yeah, it's 30 seconds. Alright, hop on in that thing. So you're sitting in your left seat. And what you gotta know is you got your attitude indicator in the middle there, right? Left of that is airspeed. And to the left of that is main rotor RPM. I'm using an English black cockpit, by the way. So main rotor RPM. Below that, engine RPM. To the right of that with the colors, it says times 100 cc. That is your TGT or EGT or your engine temperature gauges. So the big one to note is rotor RPM. Engine RPM is important. Whoops. But rotor RPM is one we're going to look at a lot. TGT is nice because it tells me, like, both engine RPMs will tell me if an engine fails, but the TGT has left and right. So I can tell instantly, where the rotor RPM and the Rift can be kind of difficult to see the number 1, number 2. Alright, so the first... alright, up top you got fuel cutoff levers, right? And alright, and now if you look over on your fuel panel, in front of your engineer, you got those 2 red shutoff valves. Those are called fire shutoff valves. So what is important is, and then your fire protection system is to the left of that. It's 2 rows. We'll start out with an engine fire. So big thing that was killing people. Go ahead and take off. Big thing was killing people is they were pulling the red lever and they were punching the secondary extinguisher, not cutting the fuel cutoff, that little red switch. Now I use voice attack to help me out, but this can be mapped, this can be macroed. You're gonna have to cut the main, cut the fuel cutoff fire, and then push the secondary extinguisher if it needs it. So how do you need it, you say? So you go into your F10 menu. Let me know, just fly down the runway. Safe altitude, get the aircraft nice and level. No, let me know when you're ready. What's going to happen, we're going to induce a fire. You're going to get a fire warning, and then you're going to get a extinguisher. Your first extinguisher will automatically engage for you, just like the KA-50. Alright, so when you're ready, we can activate it. What? Okay. I'm gonna stay relatively near the airfield. Alright, so hit number F1. We wait, we want to see what we're looking at. Go into your F10 menu. Hit F1. Go to, yeah, go into your F10 menu, and F1 is fire. Right. Okay. Thought F1 was fire. It might take it a minute. Oh no, I failed something different. Alright, maybe it's F5. What did you fail? Oh, you hit F1. Uh-oh. Yeah, you're gonna get yours. Well, that... You have to... turn off that fire shutoff valve. And if that fire comes back, you have to redo that last extinguisher. Let me do that again, because I accidentally failed my... I don't know what the hell I hit, but it was bad. Respawn, or you might have to reset the level. Did it kill you? Okay, let's see what it does for me. So if you're not fast enough or you don't shut off, so what is the difference is that red lever of your head cuts fuel early in the process. That red lever, the red toggle switch, that cuts it off at the engine. So if you don't hit that switch, it's going to keep pumping fuel into the fire. And if you've already used both your bottles, you're going to burn the aircraft up. Till you get those two shutoff switches done. Really, you probably only need... let me look at the EP. Mine's not working with crap, so I'm going to reset my mission. So I hit quit and I hit fly again. But, so you save the aircraft, you might have to quit and fly again. Let me know. And let me know when you're back or ready or in a cockpit. But yeah, so a lot of times I wasn't cutting that fuel shut off. The fire was coming back and I was burning up the aircraft and didn't have any extinguisher left. Alright, next one, we're just going to learn about the hydraulic system. We won't fail it. So you see the hydraulic control panel below the fire protection panel? So this only runs one system at a time. To test the system, toggle switch, it says main on off, right? Go ahead and turn that thing off. Boom, that system stops. Auxiliary comes on, and you still have control. Charges very quickly. Right? When you fail, what's going to happen is the main system's going to catch a hole in it. It's going to bleed. The backup system's going to come on. The main system's going to bleed out. So really, we take it, we fly back to base. We're like, all right, great. In reality, the last couple of these I've had, both systems were damaged. I got about 4 minutes of flight out of the backup. It didn't give you very much indication. And the backup, when it fails, if you open the yellow toggle and flick it down, go ahead and flick that one down, what happens? Yeah, so try and move the cyclic and the collective and the pedals around. Nothing. So really, backup system is just meant to get you to a safe place to land. Go ahead and just above that yellow toggle is aux off. It's a little gold button. Oh no, turn your main back on, I'm sorry. And then turn off the aux. And then turn your safety toggle back on. You should have the safety toggle on, and then you hit that gold aux button, your main system charges. So it's really up to you on how damaged you are, where you are, and what you're going to try and do. I mean, that backup might get you quite a while, a few minutes. So it's up to you on how damaged you are and how far you want to take that aircraft. When I do lose, often when I lose the main system, in conjunction with that, you will lose your AFC, your autopilot, or your SAS, your stability. The aircraft does not fly as nicely without it. I don't have too much trouble doing it, but I practice it, but it can be a little daunting. We got advanced engine failure, SAR failure, engine fire, dual generator, tail rotor, fuel pump. All right. So engine failure is pretty simple, and I can actually read it from you from the checklist. It says collective adjust to maintain NR. Basically, you're going to lower the collective to maintain the rotor system. So if you're under a high load, the engine's going to fail. The backup system's automatically going to take over, or the droop system or the secondary engine's going to go into a higher rev mode, which is what those PCLs are. You don't have to bring those up to a higher position. It automatically does it. It won't bring them up, but it brings the engine up, and it's going to go into overspeed road. But the Mi8 really doesn't have the greatest, like, it's a heavy helicopter, so it doesn't even really like to hover sometimes with one engine. So if you're under a high blade angle, like higher than 6.5, you're going to droop the rotor. So the first thing you do is you lower the collective and get and either slow down or try and speed up, depending where you are. If you're too slow, you might have to accelerate. That's not as common. But if you're doing 200 kph and you lose the engine, you're going to slow down to about 100 kph and lower that collective, get your rotor RPM working, and you're going to reset your autopilot if that's still working. So it's collective adjust, airspeed adjust, ECI is full up, that's not applicable, and then external storage jettison. That could be a pain in the ass. It's above your head. And you have to have your weapon circuit breakers alive, your bottom row. And you have to have AC power. So if you're drooping the rotor and you're going in the trees and you're trying to jettison, you're probably not gonna get it off. It's supposed to have yeah. All right, it is just in front of those two power levers. It is it's gonna be bomb pod release. Actually, or is it jettison? Yeah, bomb pod release. And then your selector's got to be in the right position over on the black box. So it's kind of hard to do. If I'm flying with external fuel tanks, generally I always have that row of circuit breakers up. It's the bottom left one because that's where my signal flares and crap come from. Yeah. Left and right switch. The emergency releases. Well, yeah, they're either one above the pilot or two, you have them above the co-pilot in front of him. But like I said, the bottom row, left row of circuit breaker group 3 has to be up. And you also, I think you have to have that black selector knob, the one that lets you go to gun and the different pylon selects. I believe that also has to be out of gun. So jettisoning is not an easy process. And without AC power, it will not jettison. So if you're flying as a gunship, you have a chance because you just have to reach up and hit that little red switch because your power switches are already on, your weapons are configured. Yeah. But generally, you guys don't fly around with stores on. All right, emergency explode. Let me try that one. The emergency explode arms it, and you don't want to do that when you're sitting on the ground. And the co-pilot one doesn't work, so you got to use the pilot. Jumps it away. All right. When you're ready. We're going to test engine failure. So I want you to pull in about 8 on the blade angle and start flying, accelerating down the runway. And let me know when you're ready. And then you're just going to hit F1. Are you ready to do it? All right. All right, engaging. F1. I got about 9 on my blade angle, doing about 200 kph. Flying along fat and happy, waiting for this thing to fail. Thinking, wow, when's this thing gonna fail on me? It'll be a minute. I got my nose down, like I'm trying to accelerate. I'm holding 200, almost 250. Oop, there goes my engine. My rotor's drooping pretty quick. So I lower, yep, so I'm lowering the collective. Looking at that top RPM, trying to get her back to 96. Just slowing down a little, just keeping the wings kind of level. Slowing the aircraft down. And then just getting her stabilized. If you look down below your TGT, you will see, and if you have enough collective in, you, you'll see two little red chiclets or caution lights. Pull in a little bit more collective. So it's saying governor power left engine. It's basically because the left engine failed. But the left chiclet says emergency power right engine. So when it comes to a high demand, i.e. you pull up enough collective where the rotor starts to droop, it lets the engine go into an overspeed mode. Alright? So basically here you're just watching rotor RPM. You'll hear the rotor slow, the engine strain, and then you're going to get a generator 2 failure. That means your rotor RPMs come down. When you get that, go ahead and lower the collective. Rebuild your rotor. When Bitch and Betty's done yelling at you, just lower the collective and let me know when your RPM's back to normal. Pull in more collective. Pull like 12 in, 11 in. Get that rotor slowed down to about 90%, 85%. Just gonna say generator 2 failure. Generator 1 failure. Lower the collective now. Generators. One engine's powering the rotor. Now you'll notice the aircraft's flying slightly differently. Well, if you look down, that kicked off your autopilot. So go ahead and reinitiate that guy. You're gonna lose stability. And then you get everything stabilized. Ship you're doing. Sorry, that's just saying you could be in a heavy gunship, but you're gonna lose your stability system. Some of the lights are gonna go out, so that's just a sign of droop. That's just a basic engine failure. If it was that by itself, it wouldn't be so bad. Alright, let's grab a new aircraft. I don't remember what that command is. And when we do wings, we'll teach you rolling landing. So quit. We'll get one more aircraft. Flying again. Head down the... Let me know when you take off and head down the runway again. Let me know when you're ready for the next failure. Let me know when you're ready. Alright, go in and do an advanced engine fail, F2. So this one is what's going to be pretty common. Pay real close attention to your RPM. If your rotor RPM builds and gets above 100, you need to pull in collective. Sometimes you can get a governor's failure without an engine failure. But look, so my engine failed. spooling down, but my rotor RPM is going up. It's at 100% right now. If I start seeing my rotor RPM going above 100%, I'm pulling in power. Just my... So let me know when you're holding steady around 95%. So collective down, RPM goes up. Collective up, RPM goes down. So basically now my one engine's failed, but my good engine, it's in overspeed mode. It doesn't give a shit. And when that happens, you're shit out of luck. So what you have to do now is you can use... I immediately pull in collective just to get the RPM under control. You're going to hear the engine screaming. You're going to hear the rotor building. That's what I heard the other night when your engine failed. So you pull in collective, get control of it. From there, I'm going to start using my twist grip. And lowering my collective and using my twist grip to try and manage this RPM. And this is tricky, and I've been practicing this a lot. So I'm lowering the collective to come in for a landing, so I'm lowering the RPM. So you're using your twist grip just like you're flying an old school Schweitzer. You're using a mixture of your twist grip and your collective to bring this into a rolling landing at about 50 kph. And I'm just going to roll her in. Now you would not have detected that if you... Anytime you get an engine failure, you need to pull in collective, obviously, to get out of... You can't pull in too much collective where you droop, but you can't dump your collective and then overload the rotor. This DCS, you... Sorry. In DCS, you often lose your good governor with an engine failure. So whenever you have an engine failure, you need to be looking at your RPM, making sure, one, I brought out collective to maintain RPM, and two, I'm not dumping the collective and overloading the engine. So once you roll in safely on the runway, just dump your collective on the ground, let the rotor speed all the way up, and watch what happens. And I did a roll on about 75 kph. Alright, watch it speed all the way up, see how long you get. And it'd just be vibration. It'd be screaming at you. You'd hear that engine revving. You'd hear your rotor system speeding. And I have my sound up in the game where I can generally hear it. Just learn to listen for it. Is it shut down yet? It's all the way up at 110%. Make sure you're full throttle and you're collective full down. It hasn't failed, huh? That's very odd. I failed within about 3 seconds. And your RPM is all the way at 110%, huh? Your main rotor RPM?
Generator 2 failure. Generator 2 failure. Generator
They're
1
supposed to be in the middle
failure.
position.
Generator 1
You want
failure.
Gotcha. Well, anyways, so like what happened the other day was failed, you lost. Oh, sorry, you didn't have a. When your engine failed the other day, you also lost the good engine's governor, but you had enough load on your aircraft on the way back, you didn't notice it. And then when you lowered that collective to descent, your main rotor oversped, and it shut down the good engine. So that is one case of a SAR failure or governor failure. Another case is you're going to come out of an LZ, and both your engines will be shot up and malfunctioning. They both might try and run away, in which case you're going to use twist throttle. One of them might be just trying to run away, and the other one doesn't know not to keep up with it. So you'll see a split in your needles where number one engine's going to be real low, and the number two engine's going to be real high. But everything's going to be in parameters, and you're going to think, wow, number one engine's malfunctioning. But in actuality, your number two engine's malfunctioning, and if you then the risk you got to take is, all right, I'm going to take the engine control lever for the number two, and I'm going to lower it. And you're going to hope the number one engine comes back up. In some cases, what you do is you'll raise the number one, and it won't do anything, or it'll do something, and the number two will still be stupid. So you're going to sit there and mal and go, all right, number two is actually going higher than it should. It's bringing my rotor up. Number one's way down. The number one engine might be behaving. The number one engine's gone to idle because my engine RPM is so high. So you idle the number one engine or number two engine. It goes to idle, and the number one comes to life, and it acts normally. And then you're like, all right, number one, you got a good governor. Number two, you got a stupid governor. I'm going to leave you in idle. Or, number two, you're being so terrible, I'm going to have to shut you down. Some cases, they're both going to run away. Some cases, they're both going to idle back, and you might use an ECL to try and get it up. Like, if you have a long flight back, and you feel ballsy, and you're playing with your twist screwdriver, and you have it at 95%, you could play with the ECLs and look at the needle split, and try and get one engine to behave itself. Because once it does that, and then when you get an engine up, you lower the collective, see if your rotor overspeeds or not. And then I get an engine going, I'm like, okay, number one, you're fine the whole time. Number two, you suck. And take it back to base. You might just say, you know what, screw it. I think manually. So in the checklist, there's like 3 different conditions of these things can fail in multiple ways. They can both high side. They can both high side in your twist throttle, not do anything. Like sorry, you're trying to pull in all this collective. Like they both can just go crazy and run away, and you can't control them with twists. So you're throwing down ECLs, you're pulling in collective, trying to maintain a load. This whole governor failure thing is pretty common in the Mi8. But now that you know to look at that RPM, and if you see something building too quickly, pull in collective, control manually. And once you kind of learn to look for that, you're going to survive a lot of your engine failures. A very simple engine failure. In DCS, it's just annoying. Because really, the odds of a bullet going through and taking out one engine and then the governor of the other engine, I don't get it. But whatever. So you know what to look for now. Fire, you understand what to do with fire, getting that cutoff valve, then hitting your secondary extinguisher. Because sometimes you get a fire, and the first extinguisher takes care of it. And you'll look up and you'll have no red lights. You'll get orange lights, but you get no red lights. You still got to watch that fire. In reality, you're almost going to land immediately. Always, fire's terrifying. Now in combat, you might be like, fuck. You're just going to keep watching it. You might do a shutdown on it anyways. You're going to shut down, cut off the fuel, and you're going to be holding your finger on the secondary extinguisher just to get back someplace safe. Hydraulics, man, there's not an indication when that second system's going to fail. I've flown all the way back to base and landed. I have flown 2 minutes, my controls are blocked, and I've slammed into the side of a mountain. So it's up to you to be like, I don't know, this aircraft has a lot of holes in it. I'm just going to put her down here. Somebody rescue me. And then you can play around with the other failures on this map. Some work, some don't. Fuel failures just fail the pumps. If you fail fuel pumps, you probably might lose an engine. Tail rotor failure. Sometimes this failure fixed pitches it, so it locks it. So then you're going to try and find the perfect airspeed to keep you straight and do a roll-on landing. What else is on here? Hydraulic failure, advanced engine, tail rotor, engine oil pressure. So you're getting engine oil pressure. Oil will go away. You're going to get an engine vibration warning, which is a system we test, and I'll show you how that works another time. But you'll get like engine vibrations and all that kind of stuff. And then it'll burst into flames on you. Well, that one's not as common. You don't see that very often. But yeah, that's the basic failures. But if you start learning about that engines and the peaks, engine control levers and the throttle, and you'll survive. We almost always lose an engine. Just the way they're placed in the DCS damage model. It fails them all. It's effing enraging. Caught up on EP. So that kind of wraps you up with EPs, kind of. So when you're flying around the server in the 8 and things, just let the infantry shoot at you and see what they do to your aircraft. You'll learn a lot. Hopefully, flying the next couple nights. I'll give you maybe if I'm on early tomorrow or the next couple days, we'll give you a good rundown of some of the stuff in the cockpit. Get you caught up on some things. And then someday next week, we'll try and do startup with you. That gives you a really good understanding. It's a long class, but it gives you a really good understanding of the aircraft. But yeah, you fly the aircraft very well. Both Gizzy and I have noticed. So you won't have troubles flying with those guys. They've just been working a lot of advanced nav, GPS, Doppler. You'll catch up quickly. And then you just got to learn their ways of doing things. But we'll keep working on the MI8. The MI24 is going to be very similar, I hope, in systems. So that's going to be cool. All right. Well, I got to get to bed. It's a stupid long day tomorrow. See you.
User disconnected from your channel. Over.
failure.